Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining Triple T Sisters tonight. Tonight we have our guest Chantel with Simona and I, and Mr. Chantel BNMA is going to help us dive into Bitcoin a bit. So one of the hot topics these days and for the past few years has been Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. As far as what is it, how do I get some, and where did it come from? And is it even real? And Bitcoin is real. It's a form of cryptocurrency. They're both the same thing, cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. But it's also something that it's not physical. So that's why a lot of people have a lot of questions rising about whether or not it's something even attainable or if it's something they can spend like cash. And recently a lot of companies have been accepting Bitcoin as a form of cash as well. But we'll let Chantel kind of hopefully answer some of our questions in reference to Bitcoin tonight. And we're just going to dive right into it because we've been really wanting to talk about this. So we're going to start off letting Chantel tell us a little bit about what is Bitcoin and who owns it so that we can just get the ground running with that. So Chantel, if you don't mind explaining to everyone what Bitcoin is and who actually created this.
Good evening. Um, my name is Chantal Bename, and I'm going to just give you guys a little background on crypto. And so, you asked the question of what is Bitcoin, and I know the terms have been floated around, cryptocurrency and digital currency, and so Bitcoin um, is basically just as it says. It's a cryptocurrency or what they would call a digital currency, um, meaning that it's not a physical currency, much like we have with the dollar, right? So you could go to the bank and you can withdraw dollars from the bank, physical dollars, but Bitcoin is something that you use as a payment system online, and so you don't really have it physically, um, but it's digital, so it operates in the digital space. So that's basically what it is, and it's a form of exchange of value. So you can use it to purchase things, much like you can with the dollar bills. Okay, I hope that explains it. And I think the second part to your question was who owns Bitcoin,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that's an interesting question because I think based on Bitcoin itself and the reason Satoshi Nakamoto came up with Bitcoin was for a decentralized approach to a monetary system. So, who owns Bitcoin? No one in particular owns Bitcoin because it's based off of like a decentralized type of system. Um, and so, yeah, there's no real one owner of Bitcoin.
And when you say decentralized, you mean that basically it's not monitored or controlled?
Um, Decentralized in the sense that it is like it's not controlled by one person. Um, so if you understand how Bitcoin works, or if I could just try to explain it a little bit, it's basically a computer algorithm. It's a little complicated, but in essence, um, the way it works is that, let's say I want to contribute to running the Bitcoin network. I would have a computer that's basically doing calculations or basically maintaining the network. And maybe someone across the world in Africa might have their own computer and they're contributing to the network. Maybe someone in Australia has a computer also and they're all contributing to the network. And so what happens is these computers are basically coming together to create this blockchain network that Bitcoin operates on. And basically, these computers are what makes up the network. And so it's decentralized in the sense that the code that's used to run this algorithm is not necessarily sitting on one person's computer. It's fragmented across all the different computers that are operating. And so what happens is that the information, okay, is decentralized, right? So it's not as if, like, to say that you have, let's say you wrote a paper, right, and you saved the file on your computer, you would have access to that file on your computer. But what happens is if they were to decentralize that paper, they would take one piece of that file, they would have it on a computer in Africa. One piece would be somewhere else, and it would be fragmented all over the place. And what happens is that, it creates a level of security to where you can't necessarily, I guess, do away with that file completely because it's sitting on so many different computers all at once, if you kind of understand what I'm saying. So with Bitcoin, um, that's what it means when it's decentralized, is that no one really owns it. It's basically a code that's running, a system that's running on multiple computers, and there's no real way to, like, necessarily tamper with it or delete anything, right? So that's what we get into when we're talking about blockchain technology. It's really a ledger that can't be deleted, it can't be altered, and the way they do that is by having this decentralized type of system. Okay.
Okay.
Can you repeat that again? What was the last line he said?
I'm sorry.
Can you? I didn't hear what you said before. You were talking about the. I didn't hear what you said before the last line. If you could repeat that.
No, I was saying that because it's decentralized, it makes it a little difficult for you to, I guess, in a way, tamper with the file, um, change things
Okay.
around because it's not sitting on one person's computer. It's sitting on multiple random computers all at once.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Do you think because of that, like, is that a safe form of an investment to make in your eyes?
I mean, I'm not sure if what I was referencing really just how it works and what goes into maintaining the system. But as far as an investment, there's other things you'd want to look at as far as making the decision whether to invest in Bitcoin or not. Um, I could definitely say from the start of Bitcoin to now, the price is definitely appreciated, and for anyone who was involved, they definitely saw some increases in their portfolio. So I guess you could say it was a good investment uh, for that time being. But for anyone who got in at particular times of like 2018 when it was at its peak, then it dropped to maybe about 3,000, it went from 20,000 to 3,000. You know, for anyone who got in at those periods, it wasn't a good investment. So, investments, you got to keep in mind that, they go up and down. And, timing is a big part of it. I think right now cryptocurrency is something that's new and it's up and coming. I mean, it's been around for a better part of 10 years now, but it's a fairly new uh, type of industry that's booming right now. And so I think for that being said, I think there's opportunities to be found in crypto, but everybody's risk tolerance is different, and everybody's um, I guess understanding of investments is a little different. So some people might say it's not a good investment. Some people would say yes. Personally, I'm involved in crypto, so I think it's something worth taking a look at.
Okay. And nowadays, with the way everything is going, or it seems to be going, as far as being able to spend cryptocurrency on certain things, you can even like even today I noticed, which I didn't notice before, you can cryptocurrency is on some ATMs. Like I didn't even know that was an option, and I
Yeah,
literally just noticed that.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's definitely a booming business nowadays. You know, with the crypto ATMs. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
crypto has been around for a little while now, and they've literally been building on these systems for about a decade, and I think what's happening now is it's becoming more mainstream, and there's a lot of companies that actually do accept crypto as a form of payment, um, and so I think it's only a matter of time before we start seeing these things more and more, where crypto is being used as a form of exchange of value.
Okay. And I don't know if you mentioned blockchain, but can you just explain for people what a blockchain is, if you happen to know what a blockchain is?
Well, for me personally, I'm not a computer geek at all. I'm not an expert in this particular sphere. But what I have found is that I do have an interest in it, and over the years, I've definitely learned a few things. But from what I understand, the blockchain to be is something like a ledger, right? And a ledger is really just a record. Um, and so, but the interesting thing about this ledger and the way they create it through their through their computer algorithms is that it's what they call immutable. Um, so basically, the blockchain is basically um, recording the information, and the information that's recorded on the blockchain, it can't be deleted, right? And so it helps as far as a verification, and people and companies are building on this platform, this blockchain platform, in order to provide all types of different services, and so that's really the biggest thing about the blockchain, which is what all these different cryptocurrencies are basically built off of, which is this blockchain technology. And it's basically just an immutable ledger. It's a record that can't be deleted. It can't be altered. Um, and so in that way, a lot of companies are seeing value in being able to use this blockchain technology for a lot of different services that they're providing.
Any questions on that, Simona?
Mm-mm. No.
Okay. And I know that sometimes you hear about, in the regular aspect of dealing with things, you have Ponzi schemes, you have people always trying to create these schemes in reference to getting money from people somehow, some way. And oh, hello, Christopher. Thank you for joining. And I just wanted to know, well, we wanted to know if there's anything fraudulent as far as getting people's money in that aspect related to Bitcoin, or maybe you've heard of some things or heard of some ways people may go about trying to, you know, scheme people over in that aspect when it comes to the digital currency world and cryptocurrency. Um, have you ever run across or heard of any situations like that?
Yeah, I mean, being in the space, and again, I got in 2018, when it was at its peak. But I was a novice, so I didn't really know much. I was just kind of sifting through the information, trying to find my way with it. But I had some people that kind of guided me a little bit of on where to purchase crypto and how to get involved. Um, but early on, there were a few things that occurred, that I would definitely warn people about is, different platforms that you're going to use. So I was involved with this one particular platform called Cryptopia, back in 2018. And this platform was a platform that existed for what they called altcoins. So you had the main coins, which were Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a couple others. But there were a bunch of other coins that came out after that. And basically everybody was trying to get into the space and make a little bit of money. So you had all these companies springing up and creating these coins. And so these altcoins, a lot of them were available on this platform called Cryptopia. And I invested a decent amount of money on there. And what happened was, I guess the way they had their security set up, it just wasn't really that great. And they ended up getting hacked. And so a lot of the funds that were being held on that platform got stolen and accounts got locked. And it's been about, since 2018, and I'm still, kind of waiting to see what's going on with that account. I thought it was all lost, but thank goodness, most recently I received emails saying that they're looking to return everybody's assets. So that was really great. But for some other platforms, that doesn't happen, and they get hacked and they end up going under, and people lose money. Um, but that's not to say that anyone should necessarily be afraid of crypto per se, because
Mm.
you could run into these type of issues in any type of investment. There's obviously risks, that are
Right.
involved. Just like you could be investing in stocks, and you have uh, the different brokerages that trade the stocks. So you have New York Stock Exchange, right? You got the Nasdaq, and then you have penny stocks, which are really risky startup companies, things like that. So almost um, I would almost liken the Cryptopia platform to something like the OTC markets, the penny stock markets, where you're investing in companies that could be shady, they could be on the right track, but you're taking a risk, um, and for what it's worth, you just got to try to educate yourself as much as possible, about the space that you're in. So definitely, if you have someone who's already involved in crypto, try to have them, kind of point you in the right direction, what to do, what not to do, and things to look out for. But yeah, definitely look out for shady companies that don't really have anything that they're really bringing to the table and things like that. Do your due diligence.
Yeah, that was a good way to put it. And thank you, Sammy, for joining us. Sammy's here too. And I think Christopher said that he got scammed on WhatsApp. So I guess he said he was once scammed. I got scammed on WhatsApp. I guess with the I guess you mean, Chris, with the cryptocurrency. I guess somebody tried to get money from you and promised you a bunch of money. And but
Yeah,
that's what he
people sell classes, but it's like it's more so for their residual income instead of I don't feel like you really learn anything. It's better to work one on one.
Yeah, I mean, I think you definitely want to be wary of people that are making, crazy promises to you about how they're gonna make you money and things like that, because you could find that with the stocks too, people claiming that they're gonna teach you how to do this. I think the big thing now is Forex. Everybody is jumping on that bandwagon, and they have these outfits that pop up that claim to want to be able to show you how to make millions and things like that, but then they want you to buy into it and get other people involved, almost like a multi-level type of marketing scheme. So I would definitely be wary about that, but if you have someone who's able to teach you how to do it hands-on, right? How to go on a particular platform and how to, physically, log in and purchase your own assets. I think that's really powerful, because then at that point you're taking matters into your own hands, and you're not relying on somebody else to kind of, I guess, you bring you to that goal. But it takes a lot of interest, and you got to be willing to I guess look at the information and educate yourself a little bit. because the space, it's you could get lost a little bit. So, you got to have someone who's been doing it for a while and who knows the right platforms to use. Because I think over the years now, too, crypto um, is being more and more accepted. So there are platforms that are legally like regulated by the government in a sense, to say that, they report to the government and they have filings with the government to be able to run their platforms. And there's platforms that act just like banks, where they actually insure your money up to millions of dollars, and so, using platforms like that, I don't think you need to be too weary, as far as the security of it, because there are things that they put in place now that make them act just like financial institutions, as far as security and things like that. So, yeah.
Since Simona did mention Christopher said for $2,000, that's exactly how it went from Bitcoins to Forex. Wow. Um, since you mentioned the companies, two things. He mentioned Forex, and one of our questions was, is Forex and Bitcoin the same thing? And also, since Simona had mentioned something about the companies trying to, get their pockets full, are there any good companies that are actually teaching how to invest in Bitcoin? Like, do they actually exist, or is this kind of like a situation where most of the information you can kind of, like you said earlier, as long as you do your due diligence, you can just go ahead and do that on your own, so to speak? Like, it's not that complicated.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's that complicated. I think there is a learning curve, so if you've never invested before, I think you're definitely gonna have a harder time trying to navigate. But if you understand the notion of, having a brokerage account, right, then in that sense, you shouldn't have too much of an issue with investing in cryptocurrency, because it's the same premise. There's a platform that you log into. You obviously create an account. A lot of the platforms are regulated, so now you have to provide identifiable information. Possibly a legal ID card. You have to provide your social security number. Um, you have to, put your address and things like that. So just like you would with a brokerage account where you want to trade stocks or ETFs or mutual funds, things like that. So after you set up this account on whatever platform, or we could call them brokerage, right? Once you set up these accounts, you're able to then go on the platform and choose between the different assets that they allow you to buy. Um, and just like stocks have what they call ticker symbols, um, the different coins have symbols also that they go by. One like Ripple has what I would call a ticker XRP. That's the symbol that they use to represent the coin. So when you log on to your platform or your brokerage, if XRP is one of the coins that they allow you to trade, then you can purchase it. Now, the one interesting nuance to it is that a lot of times we're talking about digital currency, and so it's not as if you're just taking dollars from your bank account, putting it onto a stock brokerage account and just buying stocks. You have to, a lot of times, transfer your dollars into the digital currency, right? And so a lot of the times you would want to change your dollars into Bitcoin, in which case sometimes you would have a separate app or a separate platform that does that for you, right? And so your first goal would be to get Bitcoin, and the way to do that would be to change dollars into Bitcoin. And then from there, you would be able to take your Bitcoin and exchange it for whatever other investments you would want. Okay. And so there are some to try to, answer your question about Forex and Bitcoin. They're not exactly the same thing. They're two different markets, right? So the Forex markets deals with um, fiat currency, right? Meaning uh, dollars of the different countries, Japanese yen, right? American dollar, US dollar, um, Canadian dollar, right? Those are fiat currencies. When we're talking about crypto, we're talking about digital currencies. So Bitcoin, XRP, Monero, uh, you know, Mana, all these other, cryptocurrencies. So they're two different markets, but in a sense, they're similar because the way that Forex works is that you're trading pairs, right? So when you're trading Forex, you're usually trading a pair of currency like the US dollar versus the Japanese yen. And in that same way, when you're trading the crypto, it's you're trading pairs. And so you could trade Bitcoin for XRP, or you could trade Bitcoin for Ethereum, or you could trade Ethereum for um, KuCoin. So in that way, they're similar, but they're two different animals.
Got it. That was a good description. And this is weird because we did have a question that said, "Do you think Bitcoin will crash one day?" And technically, they kind of just mentioned that Bitcoin went down recently. But do you think it'll actually crash one day, like the way the stock market crashed? Like, could
Um,
you, not that you know the answers to all of it, but could you foresee that happening in any, sense or form?
I mean, I think a crash is all relative. I think we've all, if we're 30 and above, I think we've all lived through a couple different market crashes, and so I think the real question is what does that mean really, or what does that look like, right? Because Bitcoin, when I got in, was at 20,000, and it dropped to about 3,000 probably a year and a half, 2 years ago. And so, a lot of people would say that's a pretty big crash from 20. Like, if you had one Bitcoin, you literally had a value of $20,000 go down to $3,000. So I think in that sense, yeah, it's crashed, and we've seen it go from 3,000 a year and a half ago to 55,000, right, or even higher, just recently. And so, in any investment, I think there's periods where, the investment, it goes on a rally and then it lets some air out. And so, could we possibly see that? I think we're seeing that now. How bad will it get? I don't know. I don't know. But a lot of analysts are saying that Bitcoin is valued at a lot higher than the price it is now, and we still have yet to see that, but you know I think the best thing to do is just get some exposure if you are interested in the crypto space. It's a long-term play, but in the interim, I think there are going to be periods where the price dips for sure.
I'm here. I was just trying to wait for that noise to stop, but it won't stop. But yeah, like you first stated, which was very clear, it is all relative. But anything could crash at any point in time. It's not necessarily based on what we're looking at right now. It could just happen. Like I'm sure nobody foresaw what was happening recently with it going down. But Also, when people make comments and they give opinions and they are owners of large businesses, and they are able to sway the market in that sense because a lot of people follow or listen. When the owner of Tesla mentioned that he wasn't going to be allowing people to purchase anything with Bitcoin, that kind of helped it to take a large dip. So, I mean, in essence, that's like, someone really high up saying something very bad about their own company in a sense, even though it's not his, but in a sense, and then expecting people to still come spend money. One of the other things we were concerned about is if you really think in your opinion, or anybody can respond on the chat, but do you think cryptocurrency is going to be like the new form of currency as opposed to the dollar? Anybody could answer this, because I do think that one day, if it continues to go the way that it's been going, the same way the dollar is of
I was
lesser
about to
value,
say that, yeah.
in other countries, then cryptocurrency can hold a higher value than the US dollar, so to speak. I'm not even sure if they'll hold the highest rank as opposed to other countries, or how that would compare. But based on how the dollar moves and how cryptocurrency is moving, I can see it taking over the dollar.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll see in the long run how it plays out, but I think it's undeniable that there are actual use cases for cryptocurrency, and I think those use cases are only going to grow in numbers, because every day there's companies that are coming out with different ways and different applications to use blockchain and to use cryptocurrency. And so the market is only getting larger. The technology is only expanding. Um, Now, will it replace the dollar? I'm not sure. But I think one thing that it does allow for is a little bit more control, and so I think for that regard, I think it's something that's going to have a lot more prevalence in our day to day.
Sometimes you get very how you say uh very, I don't know the right way to say it. You know how you're not unbiased responses.
Well, I don't want to be leading, I mean, the thing
I
is
mean,
that,
your opinion is not the end all be all, but it's just very neutral, sir.
well, my outlook isn't necessarily 100% bearish. I am trying to be objective, um, but it is risky, but at the same time, um, like I can't deny the applications because I use crypto and quite frequently. And so, I definitely see the benefits and the applications in real time. So I think for that, it's something that's worth investing in for me because I actually have real world applications for it. But I think the use cases are going to just keep growing. So, um, I do see it as being something that's going to be uh, a part of our lives. But again, I can't say that it's going to replace the dollar because it'd be hard to kind of fathom that.
Sammy had mentioned um, he can't imagine the government. He can imagine the government banning the cryptocurrency before it became that prominent. I mean, I could see it depending on who's the actual owner or the actual person behind, creating cryptocurrency in the first place, so to speak. Meaning, like, if someone in the background, I'm not trying to sound very how you say conspiracy theorist like, but if somewhere in the background the government had a hand in creating some type of currency that's digital, and this is it, and if somehow it got to the point where there needed to be a ban, if that ban didn't happen, then all I could say is that they would be behind it. So potentially, if they don't ban something that's gonna take over, they have a hand in the takeover, to simplify it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't comment on that. I don't know.
I mean, I'm not, let's just say you're not talking about the government. Let's say anything. When someone is at the top of the food chain and something is coming to take over, okay, Mr. Non-biased. So you have someone at the top of the food chain and someone is coming to take over. Usually the thing at the top of the food chain is not going to allow that other thing to actually take over. Now, if that happens, there's something that they stand to gain or something that they don't mind losing, so to speak. Something's
Yeah,
got to give.
yeah, I see what you're saying.
So in a sense, like, I can see why he would say the government would probably ban it before it became that prominent, because essentially, they're the government. You're not going to allow anything to be bigger than the government.
Right.
So yeah, makes sense, Sammy. And I don't know if Sammy's still on, but I'm guessing that means that you don't think that it'll outshine the dollar one day.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
yeah,
like I said, I think it has definite use cases. I think the question now really is whether Bitcoin is a store of value like they claim it is. And I think as long as it can prove that, it's definitely it's here to stay. And just I think looking at this whole thing as it's unfolded, a lot of governments have always been against cryptocurrency and always had a stance where they felt like they wanted to ban it. But even still, based on the price of Bitcoin, it seems to say that the governments may not want it, but it has use cases, and people aren't afraid to use it. And I think if anything, governments will look to leverage it rather than say, "Oh, we're going to ban it and not use it." Period. There's a lot of governments now talking about coming up with their own cryptocurrency. So I don't really know if banning it is something that's going to happen in the near future.
when you say leverage it, I guess you mean use it to their advantage.
Yes.
That's interesting. If you can't, if you can't beat them, join in.
Hmm.
And I mean, overall, why do you really think Bitcoin is as successful as it is? Like, do you think it's because it's, again, the oldest thing that you can think about? It doesn't require you to do much, and it's easy to attain. So people are just gonna jump at it because it's dealing with money and it's easy to get at.
No, I think the real lure to Bitcoin in the beginning was really just being able to make anonymous transactions.
Oh,
I think that was the real um, premise behind Bitcoin, was that it wasn't, you weren't dealing with like a central bank system, and it was decentralized, and you can make transactions anonymously. So I think it rose to fame because of that alone, and and I think from there it just kind of exploded. But beyond that, now there's just so many other use cases for it, and so aside from that, where it was kind of looked at as a negative thing because people were like, oh, it's being used, by drug dealers and people that are doing illegal things, right? To now, it's like, people are able to build programs on the blockchain that kind of deal with those types of questions, of anonymity and things like that. So, again, I think it's something that's going to be leveraged by governments, not, banned per se.
So you said I did actually realize that you could do things anonymously, but I never actually really stopped to think about that's what made it alluring. But then it also made me think about, in the accounting world, people are always trying to hide money. And when I researched Bitcoin, it just made me realize that it was very easy, depending on where you fall, to hide money if you went this route.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more stricter guidelines now. Governments are requiring that report your crypto and things like that. So, I don't think that's really, um, I don't think that's really where people are going to take it now. Now, for anyone who's a serious investor in it, I don't know. I can't speak for anybody who's doing anything nefarious, but I think that's where it became popular, but it's moving out of that sector into you know more legit sectors where healthcare systems are using it, insurance companies are using blockchain, and so again, it's evolved. So I don't see them banning it.
And we had referenced a term to you. I don't know if you're much aware of it or if you've already mentioned it, but crypto mining, is that like a way to hack the system, so to speak, in reference to like kind of trying to follow patterns?
When you say hack the system, what do you mean?
Like, kind of like when you play a video game and you have a cheat code, or you figure out where to find the cheat code or how to get to the cheat code, or even how
No,
to use the cheat code. Because some people could have a cheat code and still not even know how to use the cheat code.
no. When all right, so we're talking about cryptocurrencies, and crypto mining is just a term that they use to describe, um, in a sense, work that's being done on the system, you know. And for doing this work on the system, you get compensated with cryptocurrency. So, you know, people who have the know how, they're able to build a computer system with the right components to be able to compute these different algorithms and codes, right? To help whatever platform. So let's say um, one platform is XYO, right? So XYO deals with location service, and they have a hardware that you can have in your home, and it basically, quote unquote, mines crypto, this XYO token. And so basically, all that means is that this hardware that you have is providing information and doing work on this XYO platform. And for doing that, you're able to get crypto. So that's a form of crypto mining. It's really just work that you're doing or performing on a platform, and you're getting rewarded with coins.
But technically, it's kind of like anything. Oh, I'm gonna try and not sound stupid here, but so basically, if you're not already a form of a miner. Oh, hey, I'm sorry, I forgot. A Santos, thank you. And he said he doesn't trust cryptocurrency, by the way. And he said it's a trap, but we'll talk about that in a second. But if so, basically, if you're not already, I guess, in the technology game world or in the creating algorithm field, essentially, you won't even be able to be a crypto miner.
No, no. So, like I was explaining with XYO, they sell you hardware. And, there's different levels to it, There's hardware that comes already built, and it's really you just plug it in. Maybe there's some other things you have to do in the background, to set it up. Um, but in a sense, it doesn't take a ton of technical knowledge. But I guess to mine crypto or to be in that type of space, you have to have some type of technical know-how. At least how to connect the cords and stuff like that. pull up pull up a program and run it. So you definitely have to have some type of know-how. But I guess crypto mining would be a little bit more advanced um, than just purchasing the individual coins, right? Because with the mining, what you're in a sense doing is you're owning a part of the infrastructure for whatever platform you're mining for. So if you're mining Bitcoin, then in that sense you're doing work on the Bitcoin network, um, and you're getting rewarded for that work with Bitcoin. But you could mine Ethereum also. So, so there is some technical know-how that you have to have, but it's all doable if you're interested in getting in that type of space. There's so many different ways to make money or to invest in crypto. And it parallels a lot of the investment space with stocks and things like that too. Just like you have stocks that pay dividends, there's crypto that pay dividends. Just like you have stocks that pay interest, there's crypto that pay you interest. Um, on certain platforms, you can lend your stocks. On platforms for crypto, you can lend your crypto. There's mining, there's staking. There's so many different ways, and it's ever growing. And but again, it does take some know-how if you're going to go the route of mining or doing anything other than just buying the individual investments.
It kind of sounds like um it sounds like a game. It's like you have all these different types of characters that do different things, and then you're also working with something that's not physical. I mean,
Yes.
because I think I talked to you earlier. You said something, oh, before, not earlier, and you said something about you were trying to. Well, you basically said to me, I have to remember that stocks are investments in real companies, so there is a physical attribute to it. And I also was trying to say, well, isn't stocks kind of also like, they can crash at any time? It's not physical. Real estate is physical. But in a sense, isn't cryptocurrency not linked to any physical attributes? Or am I missing something?
No, I think that's the total opposite. You don't want to mistake the functionality of cryptocurrencies like coins and things to mean that there isn't anything physical to represent that. So, the coins themselves are represented by companies. These are actual companies that are running an actual business. So, the coin itself is just a representation. It's just like a stock, right? But let's say a particular company it comes out with a cryptocurrency, what they're in fact doing is they're saying, hey, we're creating a platform, and here's this cryptocurrency that you can use either on our platform or on other platforms, right? So there's interoperability with cryptos. You can buy one crypto, and it's, again, and maybe it's the XRP crypto, but you can use that crypto on multiple different platforms to do a myriad of different things. Um, but XRP is an actual company with a board of directors and people like not scientists, but coders and technicians, and they're actually building these platforms that you're using. So YouTube. I don't think you would say YouTube is a fictitious company just because it's not physical. Like you don't physically go to the YouTube building, but you could be sure that there is somewhere that they're doing some work, you know. And in that same sense, just look at crypto in that way too. It's what it is the functionality of it allows you to do everything digitally, but these are actual companies that come to the table to say, hey, we have this idea. Here's what it is, and here's how we're going to bring it to market. Here's how you can use it, and here's the use cases. So like I said, it takes some digging into, because just like you would invest in a stock, you wouldn't do it blindly. You would find out what that company does.
But here's my, I'm not trying to cut you off. I don't want you to go off on somewhere before this part. Because you said it's also, it allows you to do things. So my thing is, what is the difference in doing things over the internet with cryptocurrency versus the dollar? What's the difference? Like, what is it that it can do that my dollar couldn't do previously? Or why wouldn't a system or company make my dollar more accessible before creating something else to wipe out my dollar? It's kind of like if you ask me, it's kind of like, you know how the value of currency goes up and down, up and down, up and down. So it's kind of like somebody woke up one day and said, you know what, the dollar has lost its value as far as where it used to stand in the world based on maybe 20, 30 years ago, like even 25 years ago. Maybe I can go to another country and my dollar would be worth double. Today I can barely get it to equal half. So someone just said, okay, instead of creating more money on a printing press, they came up with, let's have something digital. We're going to say that they're going to be able to use this through technology, and this is digital money. But essentially, you've just now gotten everyone to invest in something that's worth more with their dollar. So they're kind of like exchanging their dollar for something else when their dollar was already being used in the same places. Did I talk too much, or did that make sense?
I'm not exactly following what your question is.
Um, Before I say it again, A. Santos said there's something fundamentally wrong with crypto. There are no regulations against inside trading. And Sammy said, neither is real money. A dollar only has value because you believe it does. $100 costs 5 cents to make good vibes. And then Santos said there's less transparency in the stock market. Crypto is less tangible than the dollar. Well, aside from tangibility, just the creation part is what I'm trying to focus on first. Um, if the dollar, okay, Sammy mentioned okay, because Santos said that there's something wrong with the crypto. There's no regulation. Sammy said neither is real money. That it only has value because you believe it has value. So that's the thing I was trying to say. The dollar, it lost its value over time. It's constantly going down. It's not like you can go somewhere else and have it equal double to where it did 20 years ago. So now someone else can step in and or someone else has stepped in and said, hey, I'm going to create a new form of currency, and I'm just going to call it, cryptocurrency. And since there's internet, we're going to say this can be used digitally, and they're going to trade in their dollars, and they're going to have something be worth more, and they're not even going to know it. So it's kind of like if this was before thinking of cryptocurrency, if America was running out of ways to create more value for a dollar, or if they were running out of ways to create more money in a sense, it's kind of like they found an alternative. Like you can never make your dollar look like it has more value than another country out of the blue, but you can create another factor, get people to invest in it and say that that has more value. Does that make sense?
I mean, I'm not a monetary expert at all. Some of the conversations or some of the comments, deal with a lot of different aspects, right? Of money. We're talking about money. We're talking about value. We're talking about tangibility. I think to break down these things individually would be good to really understand what they mean and how it translates. But ultimately, I think you know cryptocurrency is really, in a way, I don't think it necessarily negates anything that you're able to do with the dollar, right? Because I mean, before we had online banking and online shopping and transferring money digitally, right? We did everything hand to hand, and it was physical money. Um, but before, we didn't just go from physical money to digital currency. Like there's something that happened in between there, right? And it was just the birth of technology to where we were able to do things digitally, period. It wasn't cash money to crypto. It was cash money to doing business online and being able to trade cash money in the form of credits and debits, right? So in a way, we were dealing with like digital currency in that sense, like in our day to day. Like you go online and you literally transfer numbers from one account to another account. Like there's nobody at the bank going to take your nominal dollars that you supposedly have in your bank account and putting it in the savings. Like no one's doing that. So in a way, we were already dealing in a digital space. Like so, can we, if anything, can we at least understand that from a very base standpoint? We have physical dollars, sure, but you don't always use physical dollars everywhere you go. Some things you do digitally. And when you do that, it's really just numbers on a screen, debits and credits. And in that same sense, cryptocurrency is here now, and they're using it for the same type of transactions. The benefit to crypto is that they're able to do it quicker. They're able to do it with less fees. They're able to do it seamlessly. And in that way, it's allowing for, I guess, just an easier flow of the monetary system. But, to say that it doesn't have a store of value, I don't know if you can really honestly say that, because up until recently, people were buying Teslas with Bitcoin. Um, Even though Tesla's not taking Bitcoin, I could still go to a myriad of different businesses now that actually take Bitcoin. So if it doesn't have value in that sense, then why am I able to go out in the real world and actually use it? I can go to the store and I can sell my Bitcoin for dollars in an instant, and then I can use my card and pay for my groceries. So the real world applications are here, and I don't want to discount anything anyone says or anyone's opinion, but we have to really look at the real life use cases. I mean, you know, it's here, and people are using it on a day to day. And so, in my mind, it has a store of value. Um, does it function like a fiat monetary system? I'm not sure. I'm not, again, a monetary expert, so I can't really speak to that, because there's a lot of things that go into that about supply, right? Um, and I think that's what goes into the mining and things like that, and having a finite amount of Bitcoin. So one of the things we would have to delve into is just how money came to be and what backs money, right? And I think if some of us researched it, we would find out that money was actually backed by gold at one point. But now it's not so much, and we have what's called these fiat currencies that aren't necessarily backed by anything real, right? So even the dollar, as we have it, is not necessarily backed by anything physical like gold anymore. It's really just a currency that's floating against other currencies. And again, I'm not an expert in these things, but from my understanding, Bitcoin is looking to kind of do away with that central bank system, um, and make things a lot easier for transacting business. And I could definitely say that, whether it's easier or not, I could just say that, it works, right?
But
So I
why would
never,
it be why would it be easier than already using, like for example, say time hasn't excuse me, say all this time hasn't passed, we haven't seen this fluctuation, we haven't seen this increase, and someone came up to you and said, oh, they just made this Bitcoin cryptocurrency, you're going to be able to spend it and do all of these things. What would be the difference than me whipping out my excuse me, I'm choking on my ice cream. What would be the difference than using the money that's already in my account?
I mean, I think right now you can use both. You can use
But
either
not,
or.
that's no, no. What I said is not right now. If this had just happened in general, you know how you have to always market your brand or your thoughts or your ideas so that people could first invest in you. So my thing would have been, okay, you're bringing Bitcoin to the table. Not to say that now because it hasn't been popularized and people invest in it, everyone's going to have their reasons, and it obviously is being used as currency now. But my main question, if I would have just heard about it yesterday, someone brought it to me today, it hasn't gone anywhere, would be, why am I investing my money into some form of digital currency when my money already goes digital? So essentially, you're wiping out what my money already is valued at by putting it.
Well, I think you're well. See, I think the way you're positioning the question is a little tricky, and I say that only because you're talking about investing in cryptocurrencies. I mean, when you use that term, that makes me think that you're looking to invest in something, meaning put money into it and wait for it to appreciate.
But you're essentially waiting for.
Wait, well, hold on. So that's a very important part of it. So investing in cryptocurrencies is,
Oh,
for me, something that I think is practical because look at the price action from 2018 till now, like
you
it's
see what you're
undeniable.
missing?
But what you're also referring to in that same question is actually just pure application, right? Using it. So that's two totally different things. You can buy crypto and just use it, or you can buy crypto as an investment, right? You can invest in it. And so if you're investing in it, you're investing in it for growth. So that's why you would invest in it. Now, if you're saying why would I use it rather than using dollars, I can't answer that because personally, I don't. To me, I don't see a difference
That's
in
what I wanted to know.
me going on Amazon and paying for paying for something using my debit card that's linked to my bank account, and I don't see any difference really in using crypto to pay for it's the same thing, but I think what is being touted is really the seamlessness of it and the quickness of the transactions and the fees that aren't involved when you're doing like regular transactions with the regular banking system. Um, so there's different use cases for crypto to where you can see benefits for using it. Um, Sending money overseas, like literally. I don't know if you've ever sent money to someone overseas, but sometimes there's a lot of fees that are attached to that. But
So,
if you are able to actually send them money from one wallet to another wallet, like those fees are not the same, and in that sense there's some real life applications. Like a person might say, hey, you know what, I'm going to send them this money in crypto rather than sending it in dollars, because if I send it in dollars, MoneyGram is going to charge me like X amount of dollars. And so for transactions like that, there's great applications for it.
so Sammy has said what you just said because of the fees, and then A Santos mentioned who is to stop the banks and financial institutions from incorporating fees. But that's part of what you just said. You literally answered my question, but you also kept going into I get where you're going with everything. But one of the things Sammy mentioned earlier is that the dollar has the value it has because something has value based on what we give it valued as. So essentially, if everyone looked at Bitcoin or cryptocurrency and said, I'm not going to invest, and then they didn't have a lot of potential and everything that's happening along the time, then it would have just flopped. It wouldn't have been something that would have been more important than a dollar because essentially you're just investing in an idea because it actually isn't linked to anything except for what it is, a form of currency. So now you have this form of currency. You just stated it's no real difference between spending that and spending your dollar except the fees. Now, we've been living long enough to know when something opens up and you have a large number of people that's investing in this something or that's coming out to the business and supporting it, whatever the case may be. Let's just use a basic financial institution. It opens, it's always no fees attached. There's always low interest attached. There's always all of this gimmicks to get you to come in. And then once the playing field levels out, or once the opponents drop off, all of a sudden the same things that made you interested in this business or in this way of doing business, it's no longer present because now they have the playing field to make whatever rules they want. Oh, they're at the top now. Banks are shut down. Everybody's gone. And now Bitcoin, it's still worth a lot, but now everybody has access to it. So now what are we going to do? We've got to implement fees. Those fees that used to be free are no longer free, or the interest that used to be low is no longer low. So it's kind of like act now, take advantage of all the advantages that you can now, because later on it's going to balance out.
I mean, yeah, I can't say yes or no to that.
Oh no, I'm not asking yes or no. I'm just saying usually when it comes to financial institutions, that's literally how it goes. No one stays no fees for forever, and no one stays with the lowest interest forever. And again, we gave Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. I can't. Every time I speak about this, it just reminds me of the Emperor's New Clothes. Like those mice got with got away with taking all that money from the king because the mice got the king to believe that he was really getting this nice golden silk whatever outfit, and he felt that he should pay top dollar for this outfit. And as long as everyone else around him said that he looked wonderful in this garment, which didn't even really exist, he was willing to pay top dollar. And it was never even there. And that's what Bitcoin kind of feels like. Just to compare it to something, so I could kind of simplify where I was coming from with the whole. A Santo said, look at streaming services now compared to 5 years ago. Notice the difference in pricing. Yeah. That's why I think it's any type of business that's booming at first. But no, I was also looking for like a real distinction between spending money and spending cryptocurrency, meaning that if we lived in a perfect utopia, which we don't, banks could have gotten together with other companies or lenders and, in some way, shape, or form, fees and rules and regulations could be altered or changed and funding could be given and things like that. But it's kind of like cryptocurrency was like a way out and an easier route. And it's more work to create something rather than to fix something. I mean, I don't know if it's more work, but that seems to be what a lot of people do. They just try to make something new rather than to fix what's already there. And then they'll just try to do away with the old. So like you'll have cryptocurrency be at the top of the food chain. Meanwhile, the dollar is dwindling and no one tried to, make the dollar worth what a dollar should be or what a dollar always was in the past. If that makes sense. Meaning
Yeah, I
once
mean, it's
cryptocurrency is no
interesting
longer
new
at the
time.
top, they'll make something else.
I think it's interesting new times we live in, definitely. Um, as far as new developments, I think this is something that's going to go down as like one of the major life changing events, the onset of cryptocurrency. For me, I'm looking at it purely as an investment vehicle. Um, and so for that reason alone, I think it has some merit. Um, A Santos brought up a pretty good point. He was talking about store of value and how stability was one of the things that was necessary for anything to be a store of value. And I mean, I look at the dollar, and I wouldn't necessarily say that the dollar was all that stable, or that currencies in general were really that stable. In all reality, currencies were destabilized, and so they all just kind of fluctuate amongst each other on the forex exchange, and so that's like $1 trillion market. That's money changing hands every day, trillions of dollars, people trading these different currencies because of their instability and price fluctuations. And so I see crypto operating much like that, and so I don't think there's really much difference between the two. And again, I'm not the expert, so some people are going to say, no, there's a lot of differences, and they're going to point out all the things that they know of. But in my mind, what I mean to say is that as far as functionality, you're spending something and you're getting something in return. You can spend dollars and you can get something in return. In the same way, you can spend crypto and get something in return. I think the differences between the two is just again um, how uh, how they're implemented and the systems that run the two individual um, currencies. Right? It's a different system that's used when you're talking about the fiat monetary system versus cryptocurrency. There are a lot of similar elements to it, you know. Um, as far as like, I guess, supply, um, having a finite supply, things like fungibility, and things like that. But from a purely investment standpoint, I think um, sometimes there are certain waves that come around every so often. And, for those that are willing to take a risk and, um, invest for the long term, they reap some benefits, and but for those that aren't interested, then that is what it is. It's not for everybody, but I don't think you can deny that it's definitely a force to be reckoned with, and that I think it's here to stay. I think it's here to stay, just for the sheer fact that it allows a level of transparency that using nominal dollars just doesn't give you. And so for that, that's why I mean that governments are going to leverage it. They're not going to look to ban it. They're going to take the technology and use it because it allows for transparency, and it uses this blockchain, this unmutable ledger, and I think that's just where the world's going. And yeah.
The article that Simona gave me recently was about, what was it about? Cryptocurrency, and because Musk, he didn't want to invest because what was it? Because it's taking up too much energy from the environment. So, do you believe that using the cryptocurrency, using, oh my gosh, I don't know why I'm jumbling my words. So you don't have to believe it. Cryptocurrency uses a form of technology, and everything that needs to be transferred has to be, they're using hardware for this. All this hardware has to go somewhere. It transfers energy that's being run, out in the farms, out in the sticks, wherever these locations and hubs are to hold this technology so that all of this stuff in the background can stay running. Apparently, it's using a lot of natural resources and taking up a lot of energy from the earth. Even saying that over time, that something like cryptocurrency or using it too much can alter the temperature of the earth, making it hotter. That's why he backed out of allowing people to use Bitcoin, because it would refrain from, you know, having more activity, so to speak, internet wise. So, do you necessarily, like, in your opinion, do you think that was something he should have done, or does it matter because people are going to do it anyway, or it's just a prolonged move because essentially everyone's going to accept it? What do you think?
I don't know. I'm not into mining, so I'm not really sure how that stuff works in particular. Um, but from what I've read, it's
What do you mean? You explained it. So if you have more people that are going to be
no.
using
What I
Bitcoin,
mean
that's
is
more
I'm not into
devices.
that particular type of like cryptocurrency. I'm not involved in crypto like that in that space. So I don't really delve into the effects of mining and, if it's going to affect the earth. From what I've read, though, it seems, there's people that say that those things have been debunked, because, yeah, it uses energy, but we have renewable energy now. And so there's, people that are using renewable energy to mine Bitcoin. So in that case, I don't see where the big issue is. I mean, I don't know if everyone's doing it that way, but I'm sure there's always environmental aspects to think about if because you're using computer power, there's got to be electricity used and things like that. So if it's using way too much electricity, then why not use green energy?
I mean, that's basic. That can be anybody with
What do you mean?
over use of energy. Why don't they all use green energy? It's
Well,
not,
that's what I
it's
mean, though. Like,
cheaper
why? Like,
because it's
so
cheaper.
Elon Musk is saying, oh, he doesn't want to use Bitcoin because it's using too much energy. Then what about the people that aren't using energy and wasting it? They're using renewable energy.
But I mean, realistically, why don't people use a form of energy if it's not going to be cheaper? Most people don't go that route.
Right, but again, I don't know. I'm not into the mining space, so I don't know who uses what, like versus renewable energy versus not. But from what I've read, people who claim that it's using too much energy and is bad for the earth, there's pundits that say no, that stuff has been debunked and it's not true because there's renewable energy that you can use. So I don't know why Elon would say that, or what significance it has, or how much truth there is in it. But from what I've read, people say that that's not really that true. That it doesn't really hold much water.
Mm,
You
that was a
know.
safe answer. Another
Yeah.
safe answer.
No, no, that's all I know from what I've read. People say that there's renewable energy to be used to mine the Bitcoin. So that's the whole premise of renewable energy, is that it's not harming the earth.
How much electricity does regular banking systems use for their computers? No one has asked that one.
Oh, I
That's
have
what
no
Sammy
idea.
said. No, he's just trying to make a comparison. Like, you're not
Right.
asking one, don't ask the other.
Right, right, and again, this is from stuff that I've read also, because it's like the current systems that we have now. It's like, do we ever think how much electricity is being used to run these banks to keep the lights on? Like I go to the bank after hours, weird hours, and the lights are
And
always
the lights
on.
are always on.
So it's like, yeah, we need to think about these things as well. How much money it takes to make the money that we spend. Like
I hope
we don't have the numbers on that.
I
So
hope we
I
didn't give a
think
new
I think with
argument.
anything new, people are always going to find reasons to be either against it or for it. But I try to look at what's on the ground, and I could definitely say I've been able to take Bitcoin, invest in it, right, in the means of putting my money into it, waiting for it to appreciate, and then I sold it, and I used the money to purchase things. So that was like a real life case scenario where Bitcoin um, appreciated in value for me, and as far as any investment, that's what you want. Um, and I subsequently was able to use that money in real life. So I think there's real life functionality to it.
Well, that's definitely undeniable. We gave it real life functionality. We mean whoever, the people, whoever invested in it in the first place. We gave it real life functionality because, like I said, the emperor's clothes were not even there. The people who second that they were clothes gave it realism. You know what I mean? But then one kid shouting, "It's nothing there," it helped everyone to see there was nothing there. So essentially, if we never, like, say, for example, this conversation was had in the very beginning and then you have enough naysayers, then you wouldn't have enough people investing in something such as cryptocurrency because they really believed in the dollar. And I'm not saying I agree or disagree with anything. I'm just looking at the other side of it because I literally, Sammy said it, like, we give anything its importance. So essentially, we gave cryptocurrency its importance by saying this is more important and this is going to be the future. And we didn't make the dollar more important. We didn't make finding ways to bring the dollar back to its value because the dollar used to be worth so much more. But instead of trying to find ways to do that, like, they had a plan B. They invested in something else.
Well, when you say the dollar used to be worth so much more, you mean in relation to other currencies?
Yes.
Okay, I mean, I guess one could argue that. True.
Because I don't know, I'm pretty
But what
sure.
does that mean about Bitcoin? Like, what does that?
What does a
But what?
Bitcoin
But
equal in the United States versus like the UK? That's what I mean. But then what did um that's what I mean.
okay.
That's what I mean. So now that's what I meant by you have a second, like, Like, say for example, I don't have the actual figures, but if a dollar back in the day, you can have a dollar be worth double its value or triple its value somewhere else. That no longer stands. I mean, that only consistently decreases. Now you have this third party factor that helped something equal more in the United States versus every other country. That's why I
Wait,
said
what do you mean it helps something equal more? Helps what equal more?
the value of some form of currency. So if my currency is my dollar and my currency is lesser than your current, lesser is, oh my God, that was improper. But if my currency is not, it doesn't hold the same weight as your currency, or it used to hold a lot more weight than your currency, but it no longer does. I've now created an external factor that's going to help me have a currency that outweighs your currency now. So now
Which
we're
is
at
what currency? What?
the Bitcoin.
But see, all right. So I think we're kind of okay. So I think we got it wrong here. So no one owns Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin isn't the U.S.'s currency.
No, I understand that. That's I know precisely what you mean.
Okay, so
But you
I'm
still
trying.
have to have there's still there's still an exchange, a rate of what it equals in your country versus my. Not, I'm not saying where you're in a different country. I'm just saying there's
No,
still
I get it. I get it.
there's
But
still
but
an
that's
exchange,
all. But that's all relative, though,
but it's
right?
factual.
That no. What I mean is, it's all relative to the value of your currency that you're using. So it's you could buy Bitcoin with British pound, you could buy Bitcoin with US dollars, you could buy Bitcoin with whatever currency that you're using in whatever country you're at. But Bitcoin stands at what? Like let's say it's $50,000. Now, in order to find out what Bitcoin is worth in British pound, you would just convert how much $1 is in British pounds. You know what I mean? So
I
it's not
get
to
what
say
you
one
mean. I
it's not
overextended that.
it's not to say one country is controlling Bitcoin and they're trying to bolster their currency using Bitcoin. Bitcoin is its own standalone currency,
So then I
and
guess I should have said who has the most Bitcoin. Then I should have looked at it that way.
yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure who
No, I'm
has
not
the
asking.
Bitcoin.
That's
Um,
literally how I should look at it. I mean, I shouldn't have formed my question that way. I
but
should have said
again,
which.
it's its own standalone currency, and it's a decentralized currency. No one person owns Bitcoin. Um, and
No one
so,
person owns it, but if I have a country that dominates your country and a majority of my country owns Bitcoin and yours doesn't, well, that's not looking too good for your country.
well, in what sense? I mean, not every country has different GDPs and different amounts of money that they control. So, in the same sense, it would only be right that if I have more money, that I could probably afford more Bitcoin than you, if that was what I wanted to do. But I think really the biggest thing to understand is Bitcoin is really just, in my mind, what they're looking to use it for is a store of value. It's not something that you and I are going to necessarily be using or dabbling with. It may be used for large transactions, between countries or something like that. I don't know, but ultimately, no one person controls it. And I mean, you could have as many bitcoins as you want, and I could have as many bitcoins as I want, as much as is feasibly possible. But I don't think that necessarily means anything in terms of control or or power structure, um, because of the bitcoins are really just used to exchange value.
Okay. You know I like to just pick your brain, right?
No, no problem. I'm here.
But okay. That was good. I I like some of the comments and questions. By the way, A Santos and Sammy are always they're always on. So thanks for joining, guys. But overall, I'm gonna let everyone go because I honestly didn't think we would be on this long. But I'm gonna say goodnight. Because this was literally just about Bitcoin, and I don't want to start trying to sound like it's going anywhere else or go off on a tangent. You know, I can go off on a tangent, Chantel. I'm not gonna go off on a tangent,
No, it's all
and
good.
I'm
We'll
gonna.
save the tangents for another segment.
And thanks for joining us. And
Yeah, this was cool. I
if,
appreciate the
did you
invite.
like it?
Yeah, it was great. I appreciate the invite.
Cool. And I think we lost Simona, but not really. But I know even for a Sunday night, I know she gets tied up and busy. But thank you guys for listening to the Triple T Sisters and our guest Chantel on our discussion about Bitcoin. And hopefully, people who didn't have certain information before gathered some information from this. And yeah, some of my questions they seem very combative, but also they're just to try and get an overall overview of just different aspects. And also, I know Chantel is very smart, and I like to pick his brain. So yeah, everyone have a good evening. And you can still also post comments and questions even after the video is posted. So look out for us next week and just stay tuned. Good night, everybody, and thank you.
All right, good night.
Good night.